This is WBSM On Demand.
Good morning. I want to thank City Councilor at Large Shane Burgo for joining us for the hour. Again, he has a full-time job, and so he takes time off from work to join me here. And I always appreciate that about Shane, because that's a sacrifice to be here with you guys, and I do appreciate that. Anyway, the town administrator in Fairhaven has left. At the end of the meeting last night, the chairman of the board, Ms. Powers, announced that a separation agreement had been reached between Angie Ellison Lopes and the town of Fairhaven. The select board had reached an agreement, and I understand anyway, today is her last day. So the town of Fairhaven is going to have to figure it out. I don't know what they're going to do. Are they going to come up with an interim town administrator? I know a lot of people want to be the town administrator. I have heard a couple of names. Ian Abreu, city councilor in New Bedford, his name is in the mix. Joe Lopes, I know, who's a city councilor. He applied over there in Rochester. So I would imagine he would be interested in applying for it. But being a town administrator is a pretty lucrative job. It's a busy job. It's a difficult job. I would imagine that there'll be a number of people that want to do the job. Let's hope Fairhaven can attract people. Now, is Fairhaven going to continue with this style of government, or are they going to switch it up? That'll take a vote at town meeting. I don't know. If you live in Fairhaven, you're interested in this, I'd love to hear from you. That the town administrator is left. And we knew about that she was looking for other jobs. There'd been some interviews out there. And it's very hard to find town administrators. There's a long list of towns who are looking for people. It is a job that requires a lot of skills, licenses, experience, and a very particular type of personality that is kind of rare, to tell you the truth. So, town of Fairhaven is without a town administrator now. My understanding, as I said, I reached out to one of the selectmen, a couple of selectmen, only one of them got back to me. And that today is Ms. Lopes' last day. So Fairhaven is moving on with a different chapter. I don't know what that chapter is going to be. Are they going to just go with a different town, obviously a different town administrator, but is it that they're going to change the form of government? There was some talk of that during the election. Andrew Saunders brought that up. I think Pat Carr brought it up. He didn't make the board, but he's certainly involved in government. So I don't know if that's a movement or not, to move away from a town administrator form of government here in Fairhaven. But nonetheless, we are without a town administrator now. And it came right at the end of the meeting. I want to thank Christina Lopes for sending that to me. I do appreciate her for watching those meetings so I don't have to, but sending me the highlight reel. That was good of her. I do appreciate that. We got a big endorsement in the state representative race. If you didn't hear it, Shane Burgo has just endorsed Mark Sylvia for state representative. Now, of course, Shane has been the very left-wing member of the city council. Nice guy, but I don't know if his brand of politics with Mark Sylvia is exactly what Fairhaven and Rochester and Marion and Mattapoisett want. but Coalition for Social Justice, that type of stuff, right? But big endorsement in the state representative race, which I think is pretty close right now, between Joe Pyers, who's on the school committee out there in Rochester, and actually, he's on the school committee for the whole region, Old Rochester Regional School District. Joe Pyers is on the school committee, but Mark Sylvia has just received the endorsement of Shane Burgo. That's a big endorsement. Shane brings a lot of votes, particularly, well, they're not areas of the city that maybe is going to can vote for Mark. They might be out of district. But nonetheless, that's a big endorsement. Shane Burgo has just endorsed Mark Sylvia for state representative. So Shane, of course, has been at the forefront of stuff like safe injection sites and increase in the auto excise tax. Remember, he's the only city councilor who didn't sign the letter opposing the increase in the auto excise tax, which will be something that is voted on in the legislature. So the fact that he's endorsing Mark Sylvia, does that mean that Mark supports the increase in the auto excise tax? It would seem to me that is a signature issue of Shane Burgo, right? He was one of the, I think only 2 city councilors refused to sign the letter that Sean Oliver and Leo Choquette and Ian Abreu and Linda Morad, Brian Gomes. Actually, it was Brian Gomes and Sean Oliver that really got the whole thing going to oppose the increase in the auto excise tax that Senator Montigny opposed too. But now, Shane Burgo, who was one of the sole supporters of increasing the auto excise tax, has now endorsed Fairhaven's own Mark Sylvia for the state representative seat. That is a big move because we haven't seen really any indication on tax policy from the Sylvia campaign until tonight that one of his, because I know that Shane doesn't just support him with a vote, but he's a financial supporter of Mark Sylvia, because I know he was at Mark's fundraiser. He told you that he's the only candidate that he's endorsing is Mark Sylvia, other than Miss Harris, for president. So that's a big development we just heard from Shane Burgo endorsing Mark Sylvia for state representative. So that the towns of Acushnet, Fairhaven, the north end of New Bedford, Marion, Mattapoisett. That the race is. The Republican is Joe Pyers, but Shane Burgo has endorsed the Democrat Mark Sylvia. So that is a big, big endorsement for Mark Sylvia. I think that's one of the only city councils that made any endorsements in this race. But that's wild. Shane gets a pretty good vote there in Ward 1. So that could be the endorsement that throws this over the edge, right? One way or the other. It's really a pretty close race, I think, between Joe Pyers and Mark Sylvia. But now having the endorsement of Shane Burgo could be the difference in that race. 508-996-0500. Good morning. Thanks for holding.
Hi, Chris.
Hello.
Oh, my goodness. This is huge. First, I want to say I called twice and had to hang up. The reason why is I've had this controversy going on with my friends. So I am telling them, they're telling me that they can vote till November 6th. On November 6th, they can go and vote. And I keep telling them, no, the last voting day is November 5th. And it's just a huge argument with all of us. And I'm like, fine, I'll call into the show. And I'm going to let you hear what Chris McCarthy says. Please tell everybody when's the last day they can vote on.
The last day you can vote is, thanks for the call, the last day you can vote is Election Day. If you don't know when you can vote, I'm not sure I even want you voting. But you know what? You can go vote today. All you got to do is, if you live in the city of New Bedford, call the Elections Commission, ask them about early voting hours. If you live in the town of Fairhaven, Just call the town clerk, ask where and when the early voting is, and they'll direct you. You can vote today. If you live in Acushnet, you can vote today. Don't think about waiting to the last minute for when you can vote. Right? Vote today. You can vote up till Election Day. By the way, October is Breast Cancer Awareness Month. WBSM is teaming up with Primacare in an effort to prevent, identify, and cure a disease that strikes 1 in 8 women. Less commonly in men, but it does strike men. A simple mammogram can be your best weapon in the fight against breast cancer, allowing for early detection and the best chance for a successful treatment. Okay? Go get a mammogram. Awareness, detection, treatment, cure. That's the key to the disease. Breast Cancer Awareness Month on WBSM is brought to you by Primacare. Primacare, by your side. Let's go to the phones. Good morning. Thanks for holding.
Hello.
Hello, you're on the air.
Hi, Chris. Can you hear me all right?
I can, sir.
Thank you. Chris, just another thing about Mark Sylvia I wanted to bring out. At the Marion Institute 2 weeks ago, there was a forum. The two candidates answered questions. And one of the questions was, how would you combat food insecurity? And Mark's response was to raise the minimum wage to $20 an hour. Now, if you think about $20 minimum wage workers, you probably think about people at Market Basket that stock the shelves. Can you imagine if everyone at Market Basket was raised up to $20 an hour, what that would do to the cost of groceries, and what that would do to their margin? Grocery stores work on a thin margin as it is.
Yes, I do.
The other thing, too, is what people don't understand is you have to maintain parity between the workforce. So if you bring the minimum wage workers up, you have to bring the supervisors up to maintain that parity.
Yes.
That would be an absolute inflationary thing to do. And for him, I'm surprised that he said that. Commonsensically, it just doesn't make any sense at all to do that.
But now we know why. We know where he's getting his economic advice from. He's getting it from Shane Burgo.
Yeah, well, yeah, that's scary too. And the fact that that Shane Burgo feels that government experience is better than a small business owner's experience.
Right.
That's scary in and of itself.
Well, Shane Burgo is a good guy, and he means well, but I just don't think he knows how to get from point A to point Z. And again, if you want New Bedford-type government, then I guess you can elect Mark Sylvia, but I don't. I'm going to go over Joe Pyers.
Yeah, same here. I think it's time. I mean, what's been going on isn't working, obviously. So it's time for a change. It's time for some new ideas and some fresh eyes up there.
I agree with you, my friend. 508-996-0500. Again, big endorsement in the rep race. Shane Burgo, who, he's a lefty. No doubt about it. He doesn't hide that at all. He's for the 10 cities, for needle exchange, for increasing the auto excise tax. He's just made an endorsement. He endorsed Mark Sylvia. In fact, he was at Mark's fundraiser, and he said he's been with Mark from the beginning. He supported him as soon as he entered the race. He was with Mark Sylvia, and so that's going to be a big endorsement, and that tells a lot about the race, doesn't it? That New Bedford City Councilor at large Shane Burgo has made an endorsement in the rep race, which is part of New Bedford, all of Fairhaven, all of Mattapoisett, all of Rochester, all of Marion, part of Acushnet. The race is between Joe Pyers, who's on the school committee for the old Rochester regional area and a businessman, and Mark Sylvia, who's the town moderator here in Fairhaven. So that's a big endorsement. 508-996-0500. That's how you can get on the air. Good morning. Thanks for holding.
Hey, Chris. Don up in Stoughton.
Don in Stoughton. How are you, my friend?
Well, doing a little better than my heart attack on October 7th.
Listen, I'm glad you're talking to me. That's, what are they telling you?
Evidently, it might have been brought on by COVID that I had gotten.
Okay.
It adversely affected the artery in my heart.
How do you feel?
Pretty darn good now.
Good. All right. You
Pretty darn
following
good now.
the protocol and all that?
Oh, yeah. No, I was gasping for air and everything else. They took me to the hospital and fixed me, gave me a stent.
All right. But you feel good?
Now, oh, yeah, feel good. Now, on the excise tax, did
Yes,
you know
sir.
that this was a temporary tax introduced just before World War II?
I did.
Previously, Chris, only commercial users of the public right-of-ways paid an excise tax for the privilege of using the taxpayer-funded right-of-ways, because the citizens who paid the taxes on the right-of-ways didn't have to pay a use tax. That's what an excise tax is. But it was a temporary tax for World War II. I've read the law and everything else. But basically what I'm saying is, Chris, commercial operators can write off the cost of the excise tax when they do their taxes. But you and I can't. Wait a second. We're using after-tax dollars, and we don't get to write it off on our taxes, but the commercial delivery people get to write it off, Chris? You see the problem here?
I totally do.
Okay, it's unconstitutional. They cannot do that. We've paid the taxes. When you buy tires, automotive oil, or gasoline, you pay a road tax. That's the fee we pay for the right-of-ways. We don't pay no damn excise tax. That only applies to commercial operators, buses, livery, commercial deliveries. They pay for the use. Their income is derived from using our right-of-ways. We don't derive no damn income from using the right-of-ways. It's our right to use the damn things. We've already paid for them.
John, I appreciate your argument. You're certainly intellectual and you're correct. But my fear is that if we hadn't gotten the momentum to stop the auto excise tax increase by the governor, she would have gotten it with a supermajority Democrat. But we got real blue-collar guys like Senator Montigny and Chris Markey, Chris Hendricks, and Senator Rodericks to oppose the increase in the auto excise tax. And the entire city council of New Bedford, with the exception of Shane Burgo and Joe Lopes. They were the only ones who refused to sign the letter put forward by Sean Oliver and Brian Gomes, right? So adding another person to the legislature who's in favor of increasing the auto excise tax, it would be ridiculous, I think. So I hope Fairhaven is paying attention. I hope Rochester, I hope Mattapoisett, I hope Marion, Acushnet, I know you're paying attention, and the north end of New Bedford. Vote carefully. Vote carefully. Shane Burgo told us he endorses Mark Sylvia. Shane Burgo supports increasing the auto excise tax. Right? Let's go back to the phones. Good morning. Thanks for holding.
Hey, good morning, Chris. Rick Trapello. How are you, sir?
I'm doing well, Rick. How are you?
Good, thank you. Just full disclosure, I'm Mr. Joe Pires' campaign manager, and listening to your show as always, Chris. You do a great job.
Thank you.
And I was very glad to hear a gentleman by the name of Shane Burgo was endorsing Mr. Silva. Very glad, because it draws the stark difference between Mark Silva and Joe Pires. That if voters want more taxes, vote for Mark. If they want more green energy, higher electric bills, vote for Mark. So it's kind of an endorsement that comes out at the end of a game when somebody says, geez, I better get off the sidelines and get in the game.
Right.
I'm glad Shane did that, because it'll give voters that are maybe sitting on the fence at this point in time to say, do I want to pay more taxes to live in this already very expensive, very heavily taxed state? So I'm glad you brought that out in your show, as you always do, Chris. It was great news for the Joe Pires campaign.
Thanks for the call, my friend. And he's a member of the planning board here in Fairhaven, Rick Trapello, actually former Democrat. Yeah, look, it was totally organic. Shane came out with it. I was asking him about what he's doing as far as endorsements, the big election coming up, right? Actually, voting's right now. And that was totally organic. I happen to know that he's supporting Mark Sylvia because I'm pretty aware of what Shane's and the Coalition for Social Justice are doing. So it was, but it was organic, Anyway, 508-996-0500. Good morning. Thanks for holding.
Good morning, Christopher.
How are you doing?
Hey, being a Fairhaven resident, and I'm calling on all the seniors and surrounding towns, but especially Fairhaven. When we struck down Proposition 2.5, the seniors came out, voted, put us over the top to eliminate or stop Proposition 2.5. And I'm calling on the seniors, let's do it again. Let's send the message that we don't want Mark Sylvia in there. We don't need higher taxes. We don't need a higher excise tax. And my other comment is, did you see the interview with Trump and Roden?
Yeah, the 3-hour one. I did watch it, yes.
And he mentioned, Trump mentioned about the whales being killed due to the wind turbines.
Yes.
And I thought that was pretty close to home. So here's a president or an ex-president that's really hitting close to us at home here, and vote Trump.
Thank you, my friend. Thank you. Look, last year, right, with the Proposition 2.5 override here in Fair, it would have been a general override. It was defeated by the town. And what happens is every year there are lobbyists up there in Boston trying to gut Proposition 2.5, the protections that we voted in 1980, right? They tried to do it with the auto excise tax, which is by law got to be 2.5%. The governor tried to increase that. That would have been a gutting of Proposition 2.5. The teachers union asks everybody they endorse if they're going to weaken Proposition 2.5 protections for the taxpayers so they can collect more taxes. It's an ongoing battle. So you've got to vote very, very carefully. If you live in Fairhaven, if you live in Marion, Mattapoisett, Acushnet, the north end of New Bedford, all of us are very sensitive to property taxes, right? We don't get a lot of state aid. We don't get a lot of federal aid. All the revenue comes from the property tax owners. Without Proposition 2.5, most of us wouldn't be able to own our property. It's just the way it is. Taxes would be so high, right? So give me gals. Give me more, right? So I'm just telling you, be careful. Be careful. Good morning. Thanks for holding.
Good morning, Chris. How are you?
I'm doing well, my friend. How are you?
Good. I'm sorry I missed Mr. Burgo. I met him a few terms ago when he first ran, and he talked to me about being a man of the people and taking care of everybody. And he seems to be a good enough guy.
Yeah.
But his politics have slid very to the left. Progressive, liberal, whatever you want to call it.
He's a socialist. I would say he's a socialist.
The votes I see on the council, I mean, it's just spend. And, we just can't handle that anymore. There's got to be a term where we have somebody, a council doing better that watches the pocketbook and, a wallet and, helps out small businesses and the homeowners, like you were saying, in the small towns, Proposition 2.5. In the city, we don't have a lot of protection here. The mayor just keeps going on with his programs, build, but there's no revenue coming in. And, as much as he's tried to get some going, it just hasn't happened. And he's been in there, I think, 3 or 4 terms now.
Oh, yeah.
I just, we need a change, on that platform. And him being council president, I think it would be a disaster, to tell you the truth. But let me ask you one question.
Sure.
he was talking about his politics, and he thought that it's a big win for Harris. How do you feel at this point?
I would tell you that I have no idea what's happening in the rest of the country, but I can tell you that the enthusiasm that I see for Trump campaign feels like 2016. It really does.
I'll agree. I think that it's an electoral college win for President Trump. And I think it'll be a big one, though. It'll be, she won't, the popular vote will be tight, but he'll get more on the electoral college to take him over the top. And I think it'll be good for the country.
Oh, I agree. It'll be good for the country. And remember, let's remember that it's only the electoral college vote that matters. All the popular vote stuff is just a talking point.
I agree with you. I just say where we are right now and everything, especially with the nonsense that fake news and these progressives are saying, they're not even talking about issues. They're just whatever, they're throwing stuff to see if it sticks. It's really disappointing for a presidential election. At some point, it's just hard to watch. But I hope you have a great day. You do a good job, and thank you.
You too, my friend. Thanks as always. I appreciate the kind words. We had a big endorsement in the last hour. Shane Burgo, at-large city councilor, progressive, like socialist style, has endorsed Mark Sylvia for state representative. In fact, he said he was with Mark from the very beginning. And I know he was at his fundraiser, so he's really all in. And what does that mean for the race in Fairhaven and Mattapoisett and Marion and Rochester and Acushnet and the North End of New Bedford to have a big city Democrat like Shane Burgo endorsing Mark Sylvia? Shane is an ideologue, okay? He doesn't really cross party lines and endorse. He's from the left wing of the Democrat Party. So that's a significant development for the race, I think. 508-996-0500. And by the way, the town administrator, today's her last day here in Fairhaven. If you haven't heard that, it was announced at last night's selectmen's meeting, right at the end of the meeting. The chair of the select board, Stacia Powers, announced that I think I'm adding the word amicable, but a reasonable separation agreement had been reached between Angie Lopes and the select board in the town of Fairhaven, and so that position will be vacant as of today. It's my understanding. So that's big news here in Fairhaven, and the endorsement of Mark Sylvia by progressive Democrat Shane Burgo. Left-wing Democrat Shane Burgo has endorsed Mark Sylvia for state representative in the town of Rochester, Marion, Mattapoisett, and Fairhaven, plus Rochester and the North End of New Bedford. So it's a big deal. That's a real big deal. Not as big of a deal as the New England Patriots finally winning a game, but they beat the Jets. If you didn't see that, you missed it, or didn't hear it on WBSM, you missed it. This week, the Pats are heading to Tennessee to take on the Titans. Titans are 1-6, so they're going through their struggles as well. The Patriots have a real good shot now at stringing together 2 in a row, right? 2 back-to-back wins. Patriots against the Titans. Kickoff at 1 p.m. on WBSM. Pregame starts at 10 a.m. The New England Patriots all season long here on WBSM. Stick around. We'll be right back. Program. I'm Chris McCarthy, and you are the audience. You can reach me at 508-996-0500. How do we feel about people making an endorsement from the New Bedford City Council in our rep race over here, right? How do we feel possibly? I hear that some of the people that are interested in applying for the TA job are currently city councilors in New Bedford. I've heard 2 names of two different present city councilors that are interested in being the town administrator in Fairhaven. How do we feel about that? The tax rates that they pay in New Bedford are an abomination to people in Fairhaven. Folks, do we really want to go down the road of taking our cues from Shane Burgo for who our state representative is going to be? Right? I think the people in Ward 1 would rather have the people of Fairhaven swing that vote in the direction of Fairhaven's tax rate than New Bedford's tax rate. And do we really want to have a New Bedford City Councilor as our town administrator here in Fairhaven? I mean, I can't believe that would happen. But I'm just wondering, because that is the names we're hearing now. A couple of city councilors from New Bedford are interested in being the successor to Miss Lopes, who today's her last day. And Shane Burgo has endorsed Mark Sylvia to be the state representative from Fairhaven, Mattapoisett, Acushnet, Marion, Rochester, and part of Ward 1. I don't think we want to take Shane Burgo's. Look at the rate, the tax rate they're paying in New Bedford. Do we really want to import those values to Fairhaven and Rochester and Mattapoisett and Marion? Nobody be able to own their property over here. We'd be loaded down with housing projects. I really don't think we want to import the New Bedford City Council values to the town of Fairhaven. I just don't. I really don't. And believe me, I've been watching the politics of this region for a long time and reporting on them. Trust me on this one. Good morning. Thanks for holding.
Hey, good morning, Chris.
What's happening?
Trying to stay warm today, but it's going to get better towards the end of the week.
Yes, it will.
To me, first of all, let me say it's nice hearing from Don from Stoneland. I hope he keeps getting better.
I do, too.
And as far as Shane Burgo, I don't care if he endorsed Mickey Mouse or Bugs Bunny. It doesn't make a difference to me.
Does it? Well, but you live in New Bedford. Wouldn't that concern you if you lived in Fairhaven?
I'd be alarmed.
Yes.
I think you'd be ready, Chris, to move out. Back up your whole U-Haul truck. And start getting ready to leave.
It's crazy.
I think Shane Burgo needs to read a book on Calvin Coolidge. Lower regulations, lower taxes, and let the government get out of the way of private industry so that we can have a flourishing economy. The Democrats don't want to talk about why there's high unemployment, why we have all these vacant factories. If you don't have employment, it leads to poverty. All they keep talking about is taxing the working class. Most of it, people are just barely getting by. And you listen to them, we need more money for this and we need more money from that. And then we ask, where are you going to get the money from? It's from the working staff.
Yes, and property taxes. Thanks for the call, my friend. There's a New Bedford resident who knows what it's like to live in a government where Shane Burgo has a major influence, right? And it's clear he'll have a major influence in the State House if we elect his handpicked candidate, Mark Sylvia, right? That's pretty obvious. Let's go back to the phones. Good morning. Thanks for holding.
Good morning.
Hey, you're on the air.
Me?
Yes, sir.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, the Rochester Administrative Building. Is there any elevators in that building? Do you know?
It's a family show, Carlos.
All right, I'll talk to you. I appreciate it.
How do you think about Shane Burgo, though, endorsing Mark Sylvia?
I think it's very telling in what kind of candidate we have running, and that's why I enjoy when people do endorse people and they give us a hint into what could possibly be, and we can make a sound decision, and if that's the direction that we want to go. And I think it's a good thing, and I appreciate that he did that. You know?
I do too. I do too. Thanks for the call, Carlos. I do too. In other words, it is, got to read between the lines a little bit, right? But Shane Burgo is a real progressive liberal Democrat. The tax rate that they pay in New Bedford, we talk about it here all the time. Folks, we rejected an increase in taxes with an override of Prop 2.5. Okay? Now, Shane Burgo is endorsing Mark Sylvia to be state representative, not just for Fairhaven, but for Rochester and Marion and Mattapoisett, Acushnet, and part of the north end of New Bedford. So it's a big deal. Shane Burgo is elected across the city of New Bedford, and he's a major player with the Coalition for Social Justice. So that gives you, and he said he's been with Mark Sylvia since the beginning. I know he was at his fundraiser, so he helped finance the campaign too. So this is but again, as it gets down to the wire, you get more information about the candidates and you make the decisions. Again, I've invited Mark Sylvia a couple of times to come on the program. I have not even heard a response. Never mind, go screw yourself. Just on nothing. Just ignoring me. So anyway, but today we heard from the campaign that Shane Burgo, progressive Democrat, is supporting Mark Sylvia, and has been from day one. So that's a big, big development. Good morning. Thanks for holding. Hello, you're on the air.
Yes, hello?
Yes, you're on the air.
Good morning. Yeah, as a New Bedford tax-paying resident, I just want to let you know that since 2017, my property taxes, has more than doubled. My house insurance is also almost doubled in that time frame. And now I just had to renew my car insurance, and that skyrocketed. So between my house insurance, my water bill, my my property taxes, it cost me $10,000 a year.
Phew.
And, it wasn't that long ago where I had to pay nowhere near that.
Right.
Now, Kamala Harris is talking about doing that tax, the unrealized personal gains tax,
yes,
where she's going to tax the value of your property, as income at 25%. So imagine what that's going to do if she gets in and does that.
There is a story an editorial in the Wall Street Journal from over the weekend where Mark Cuban was aggressively supporting Kamala Harris, and he was confronted about the unrealized increase in the tax on unrealized gains. And he said, she doesn't believe that. She doesn't believe that. But eventually he figured out that she does, in fact, believe it. He thought it was so preposterous. And then he found out that his own candidate really supports it. It's absolutely outrageous. You'll have to sell assets to pay for assets you don't want to sell. It'll be insane.
Well, they've been talking about this for a long time.
Yes.
Biden ran on this years ago where they were going to when Biden was running, he was talking about putting a surtax on your property tax. In other words, so that the federal government would get a portion of it, 3% or whatever.
Yeah.
I don't know where they expect us to get all this money. We had $2 billion that was supposed to be returned to the taxpayers from Maura Healey, and she gave it away to all the illegal immigrants who don't even belong here.
Right.
These people are in the country illegally, and they get free everything. And I'm a retired guy. My income is being eaten up by this stuff. They were saying that the the Biden administration has cost the average household $22,000 a year in increase in the cost of living.
It's insanity. And people, I don't know. I think that is a great question. Where are people going to get this money? What happens is you're not going to get any more money, but your lifestyle is going to be severely diminished. And that's frightening.
Oh, yeah. I used to go to the grocery store and spend $100. I'm able to get out of not having to carry so many bags coming out of the grocery store because $100 buys one.
No, listen, I appreciate your sense. Thanks for the call, my friend. I appreciate your sense of humor about it. But really, it's a lot easier to get up the stairs now at the house because the grocery bags are a lot lighter, right? Shrinkflation, it's happened to all of us. Well, elections have consequences. Elections have consequences. And we heard about a big endorsement in the state representative race, which is relatively tied, I would say, here in Fairhaven between Mark Sylvia and Joe Pyers. Shane Burgo, progressive Democrat, liberal, socialist, really, has endorsed Mark Sylvia to be the state representative from Fairhaven, Acushnet, Rochester, Marion, Mattapoisett, and a little part of North End of New Bedford. He wants to bring the New Bedford style government, right, to Fairhaven. Do you want to? Is that what you're looking for? Well, elections have consequences. You have up till November 5th to make a decision, to vote, right? Stick around. We'll be right. If you're on hold, stay there. We'll be right back. $55 a day and food of their choosing. DoorDash right to their hotel room. It's not bad, really, to live like a refugee. Good morning. Thanks for holding.
Good morning, Chris. How you doing?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm doing well also. With the administrator leaving from your town of Fairhaven, do you believe that Fairhaven will now do away with that position?
So there was some talk of that during the campaign. I know Andrew Saunders speculated on it. He didn't say absolutely, but he thought it might be time to re-envision what we do here in Fairhaven. So that's a real possibility.
Okay. And the second question would go to, now that she is leaving and Leon has left, there was that racial piece of the puzzle that was brought up earlier by Leon. Do you think any of this has anything to do with the administrator leaving also? Because now there's the upper power range there's no diversity there. I know you're not crazy about diversity, but I just was wondering what's your take on that? Do you think they were pushed out? Is this going to move further down the line somehow? Discussion?
Don't know. I mean, I know Leon decided not to run because it's a lot of time from being a selectman, and he wanted to concentrate on his family and his career.
Right, but it did go national when he was leaving because of some racial incidents there. That was well known. That went national, and I'm sure you're aware of that.
Yeah, I know that the media saw an interest in that, but correct. I don't know if that's the real reason Leon left. I thought it was to concentrate on his career. I don't think Leon was intimidated by racial stuff. I don't think so. I just read things in the Fairhaven Courier there that was pointing in that direction, and it even brought up the fact that the administrator had some issues related to racial discomfort there. So I was just wondering, that was why I was just asking that question, because I know you're embedded in the town pretty much, so you have your finger on the pulse better than I would, of course. But. Well, no, I maybe I do, but I'm not in those discussions. I don't know, and I know Leon pretty well, but I don't know Miss Lopes really at all, other than to have observed her, on cable television. So I don't know. I guess we'll find out, right? We'll find out eventually if someone sues. But I think it was what I understood from the conversation last night, just a brief one, is that it was a equal. They all parties agreed to the separation agreement.
I knew it wasn't going to last. That there was no way she was going to be able to stay on. That writing was on the wall months ago. But I was just wondering if now if the town would go ahead and just abolish that position. And now the second question that I had was, wow, this is like the second person of color kind of leaving the ranks of Fairhaven with what I know from only what I've read.
Yeah.
I don't know anything personally, of course, but just looking at what was said in the Town Courier and some other media that I have read, I think, wow, there were some things that really surprised me about Fairhaven. Cosby, Fairhaven wasn't. I think one of the things was Fairhaven not that fair. So that was a piece of the puzzle. I was trying to figure out what was going on there.
Hey, thanks for the call. I do appreciate it. I think there's a difference between a hired employee leaving and an elected official deciding not to run again. Those are major differences. But we'll see, right? Stick around.